tuned in to Watch This with Eryk and Brandon, the show where we make a friend watch a movie or TV show that they've never seen before. What do they think? Is their opinion the same as yours? That's what we're going to find out today. It's Brandon with you.
And Eryk.
And today's episode, Eryk and I are going to discuss Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Now, this is a movie that I've seen several times. Eryk just watched it for the first time the other night. And we're going to get Eryk's reaction to the movie as a first-time viewer and my reaction as someone who's seen it a bunch of times.
Yep.
And we're going to discuss our favorite scenes, where the movie ranks next to other Jim Carrey movies, and we'll go from there.
All right. And by the way, spoiler alert, if you're like me and you hadn't seen it until recently, or if you haven't seen it all, watch it and then come back to us. We'll be here.
All right, so let's start with the background of the movie. Now, this was one that was released back in 1994. It's a huge success.
Yes.
It made $15 million. It was a $15 million budget to begin with.
Yeah.
And the movie went on to make $107 million worldwide.
Wow. Yeah, it seems to
pretty
be a
good
trend with comedies, right? The first one we covered was American Pie, and that one, I think, what was it, $12 million
Yeah, it was
budget.
a low budget.
It made crazy amounts of money, and but then again, you don't need a big budget, I guess, to make a good comedy movie.
And it received generally unfavorable reviews from critics when it first came out, and they just didn't like it.
They didn't like it. We'll get to a
we're gonna
little bit of that
talk
in my reaction.
Yeah.
But yeah, Metacritic, 37 out of 100. IMDb users, though, 6.9 out of 10. So people love this movie.
People liked it, yeah.
But critics, well, yeah.
And the fact that Jim Carrey's career took off after this, like he was in In Living Color before that, and he wasn't well known. He was a Canadian,
yes,
and then he gets cast in this movie, and things just blew up for him.
His 1994 was unbelievable.
It was one of his best years. It was his best year.
Ace Ventura, Dumb and Dumber, and
The Mask.
And The Mask.
Yeah.
In 1 year.
All in 1 year.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And we'll talk about those movies a little bit later on. And so Ace Ventura spawned a sequel, Ace Ventura When Nature Calls.
Right.
There was an animated TV series, Ace Ventura Pet Detective, and then later the direct-to-video spinoff, which you could imagine was amazing, Ace Ventura Jr. Pet Detective. I haven't seen that one. I can't say I've seen that one.
Well, that's good. I probably won't be seeing any of those, but
I don't blame you.
We'll get to that later. It's amazing. Okay, so Jim Carrey is unbelievable in this, right? So funny. He wasn't even the first person they thought of for this movie, which is great.
The list of people that they approached is mind-boggling when you think about it.
Judd Nelson. What?
Yeah.
Alan Rickman?
Yeah, that's not a person that you see as funny.
Professor Snape
could
have been Ace Ventura Pet Detective.
And Rick Moranis.
Rick Moranis was actually the first person they approached, and he turned it down.
Yeah,
which
he
is
didn't
funny
want to do it.
That would have been the only one out of those three names that
I would pick.
That would have worked.
Yeah.
Also, Whoopi Goldberg. They were actually thinking at one point when some of these people turned it down that maybe we should make Ace Ventura Pet Detective a female and get Whoopi Goldberg to do it. That also would have been pretty funny.
I think that would have been an interesting choice too.
But they saw Jim Carrey on In Living Color, and actually, there's one character he played on In Living Color, which is a character I don't think would work in 2019, but let's let viewers be the judge of this. The overly confident gay man was a character he played on In Living Color. It's basically Ace Ventura.
Yeah, and the Alrighty Then.
The Alrighty Then, he even says as that character. So they saw him on that show. They allowed him to rewrite some of the script and improvise a lot.
Which is amazing.
For a newcomer, and then the movie blew up.
And he helped rewrite the script at the time as well. And as you said, he improvised a lot of this stuff. And so now let's talk about the three films that he was in. So The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, later that year. The three films altogether, Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber, had a box office gross of $550 million. And that ranked Jim Carrey as the second highest grossing actor, office star, 1994, behind Tom Hanks.
What, for Philadelphia?
It was either Philadelphia or what was it, Forrest Gump, maybe. Might have been Forrest Gump. Yeah, I think it was Forrest Gump.
Wow. And Tom Hanks still was ahead of Jim Carrey, even though he had three massive comedies in 1 year. That's pretty crazy. So, going to get into our reactions now in just a minute. First, my prediction. So this is what I wrote down before we watched the movie. I know he's a pet detective. I don't know what that means. And also, you had mentioned Dan Marino. So I was like, well, it must take place in Miami. But that was literally all I knew. Didn't know what the plot was going to be about. And so I watched it for the first time.
All right, so what did you think? Let's get your reaction here.
Well, I mentioned in our American Pie episode that slapstick style of comedy. It's not really my favorite kind of comedy. It's not your thing. No, I prefer wittier writing, stuff like that. However, Jim Carrey is the best at it. I mean, this guy, nobody moves like Jim Carrey can move. Nobody can do more with their face. Right?
He's like got a rubber face.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And so he is just a genius when it comes to this style of comedy. And if I'm going to watch this style of comedy, I would want to watch Jim Carrey just because I know it's going to be funny because the guy is unbelievable. The movie was funny. It was very funny at times. And, I mean, it wasn't a good movie.
In your opinion.
In my opinion, right? I obviously, yes. In my opinion, I hope everybody formulates their own opinion. I didn't think it was a very good movie. I mean, as we mentioned earlier with the Metacritic, critics agree with me.
Yeah.
Not that I care what critics think generally. We usually mention that kind of stuff just for, context out of interest. But in this case, I agree with the critics. It wasn't a good movie, but it was funny.
There were some funny aspects
I'm sure
to it
there's
that you
a lot
enjoyed.
of people out there. I'm going to sit down and watch a comedy movie. I don't care if it's a good movie. I just want to laugh. And that would be perfect for this. For me, as I said earlier, I mean, my preference is I want to see good writing and good filmmaking and everything. I mean, the Coen brothers, Woody Allen, Mike Nichols, some of his movies. I mean, these are guys who have made incredible, funny, very funny movies that are good movies,
right.
In my opinion. And so I would prefer to watch something like that. So, did I like this movie? It was funny. I'll say that. I'm glad I saw it. I probably won't watch the movie again. There are many more Jim Carrey movies that I really, really like, and we'll talk about those a little bit later. But so that was my opinion. Yeah, of course, it was funny. If that's what, again, if most people when they're watching comedies, they're watching it to laugh.
Exactly.
So I get that, and so it's perfect for that. I'm glad I saw it, but. Yeah, wasn't my favorite, but we'll talk about some of the other Jim Carrey movies in a minute. But you have seen it many, many times.
I have seen it lots of times. It's a movie I like. It still holds strong for me. Yeah. I went into it knowing that it was going to be a fight. I saw it. Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen it. I was 12 years old when it first came out, and I remember seeing it in the theaters. And it's not really a movie for kids when you think about it. It had a PG-13 rating at the time, but I mean there are some scenes in there that it could be questionable for younger audiences. Right. Some of the writing was funny in it. I thought the acting was so-so. Minus Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was clearly the best actor in the movie.
And actually, Jim Carrey, just a quick tangent here, actually ended up winning 4 awards. I wrote them down. So he won Favorite Male Newcomer and Favorite Actor in a Comedy at the very first Blockbuster Entertainment Awards. How many of those do you think happened? Newcomer of the Year at the London Film Critics Circle Award and Favorite Movie Actor at the Kids' Choice Award.
Yeah, so I mean, these aren't any prestigious awards or anything like that.
He didn't win an Oscar, but he did get many awards and a couple of newcomer awards. So that's pretty cool. And I mean, his performance was incredible, but
yeah, and then, so overall, it still held up for me, and I still enjoyed the movie.
It is funny, and now one thing I mentioned earlier about the people just wanting to sit down and watch a comedy, I imagine that's probably what you want when you want to sit
down.
Right?
I mean, I do like good writing.
Right.
You know that. And, we enjoy the same types of comedies and the same stand-ups and stuff like that. But I still do like to sit back and just laugh and turn my brain off. And
you were laughing quite a bit, too. Yeah. And you've seen it. I mean,
I've seen it tons. Yeah.
You were 12 years old, so that was a long
time ago. We're going back.
So we've both seen many Jim Carrey movies.
Yeah. There's a ton of them. And we talk about all those ones from 1994.
Yeah.
No doubt the greatest success happened in the 90s. So you got Dumb and Dumber, my favorite movie from Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
I think that was my all-time favorite Jim Carrey movie just because everything about it is hilarious. The whole concept of this limo driver and he's trying to find this woman that he thinks is going to marry him, which was his wife at the time, Lauren Holly, I believe her name was. That was a good one. The Mask, 1994, entertaining, funny story. Yeah. It was a fun story, and the special effects were great in that movie with that mask.
Yeah. Now, out of the 394 movies, because we've both seen all 3 of them, where do you rank Ace Ventura amongst those 3?
Okay, so I'll go Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, The Mask.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, I would put Dumb and Dumber and The Mask ahead of Ace Ventura, probably because I watched those when I was a kid.
Yeah, exactly. And if you were younger, maybe say my age when you watched Ace Ventura, your opinion might have been different.
I watched Ace Ventura for the first time as an adult. Yeah. And so, yeah, maybe that is skewing my opinion a little bit. So I imagine it would be. Now, some of my favorites, I mean, I rewatched last night because I knew we were going to be talking about this. So I rewatched last night The Truman Show.
Yeah, and that's one I haven't seen.
It's incredible. Talk about a movie that critics actually did love.
Yeah, and a total 360 from what he did with Ace Ventura.
Sort
right?
of.
Was it a comedy?
It is sort of a comedy.
I don't know. I
dark comedy.
Yeah.
You might even get away with calling it a sci-fi, sort of, because it's like this... it's hard to describe, but I think you generally know what the plot is, right?
Well, he's a reality TV star that doesn't know it, right?
Unknowingly, a reality TV star, and a very interesting concept for a movie. The performances are unbelievable, not just from Jim Carrey, but the whole cast really nailed it. And he was still being his crazy, wacky guy that he normally is, but he's playing a character that has depth, right? And The Cable Guy was another one that you mentioned. I also watched that one.
Now that's a dark comedy.
It's a dark comedy, and he's doing crazy stuff, right? He's still being the funny Jim Carrey that we know, but he's playing a character that has this darkness to him. And Jim Carrey is such a good actor. When he has more to do as an actor, I prefer his movies. In Ace Ventura, he's just playing this one-note sort of crazy guy. It's like, just be as crazy as possible, action.
Yeah.
Right? And like I said earlier, he was like kind of doing that character that he already did on In Living Color. And he's just kind of being this crazy guy. But in those movies, Cable Guy, in The Truman Show, I haven't seen Men on the Moon, but I know you have.
That's a good one, and that's a serious role. He plays Andy Kaufman, and he does a great job at doing it. The performance was documented on a Netflix show, actually, and that's called Jim and Andy: The Great Beyond. Now, he actually took on the role of Andy Kaufman to play to film that movie. He was method acting at the time, and then his alter ego Tony Clifton, who is an absolute jerk. He was that jerk on set. He was absolutely horrible to work with, like just terrible to work with, and people were getting mad at him. They weren't happy with it, but I mean, it all made for an excellent movie.
Right, and this is what I mean, and this is why I have to see those two movies, because I know I'd love them, but yeah, that's really what I'm looking for in a Jim Carrey movie. I mean, I also saw Bruce Almighty when I was a kid, which I think might be his highest grossing movie.
Yeah, I think it did quite well.
Not exactly sure, but I think it made like well over $200 million, which is crazy. Yeah. That's another one I saw as a kid. You know, that one's hilarious.
One more too that I want to mention from the 90s. 1995 was Batman Forever.
Oh yeah,
probably not the best movie. His performance was good as the Riddler.
Yeah,
the movie was terrible. I thought, anyways. But that's a whole other story. But I just wanted to throw that one in there for honorable mention. I also saw a
couple when I was a kid. Like when I was a kid, I saw How the Grinch Stole Christmas and the series of unfortunate events. Those I don't necessarily consider Jim Carrey movies.
He was there, but there was more.
There. And they're kids' movies, and they're well done kids' movies. And but yeah, he's great. What a career this guy had.
Yeah, unbelievable.
We could talk about his movies forever.
Yeah.
But let's go back to Ace Ventura. Funniest scenes.
Yeah, so there's a bunch of scenes that stand out to me. And my favorite one is the opening scene, I think, when he's a delivery driver, and he's just destroying this box. He's running down the street, throwing it around. It says Fragile on it. You can hear the glass shaking around, and he's smashing it against things, against the fence, throwing it down the hall. Just hilarious.
That was great. That was an incredible scene. I love the sunflower seeds where he's chewing them, dropping them on the desk. Can I get you an ashtray? I don't smoke. It's a disgusting habit. Yeah,
like that line alone. It's a small thing, but it was hilarious. Yeah. And he's trying to find the AFC Championship ring with the missing stone in it. That's got to be one of the best sequences as well.
This is where I laugh the hardest.
Yeah, he's tracking down all the football players.
It's the chloroform part. Yeah. Is where I laugh the hardest in the entire movie. Is when he takes the guy down with chloroform.
Yeah, after because he's racing with him and he can't keep up with him, so he's just going. He knocks him out with this chloroform. And the erratic driving, the guy flips him off, and he's got the binoculars and whips the guy with the towel and gets punched. It's just all that. That whole scene was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
And the other part When he went to the mental hospital,
right?
When he was trying to look for
my brother Larry,
yeah, and the part when he's talking, saying he wants to play, put me in, coach, and he does the play, and then he does it in instant replay.
Yeah.
That's funny.
I love when he's talking with his ass to Tone Loc in the police station. By the way,
where have you seen that in a movie before?
Hot reference, having Tone Loc in the movie.
Funky Cold Medina.
Yeah, but when he sings "Asshole Mio" with his ass. That's unbelievable. Like,
hilarious.
that's just comedy genius right there. And I love, of course, when he finds out that Finkel, the kicker, is Einhorn, his boss or whatever. And after he has already kissed Einhorn, that whole sequence.
He's got the plunger.
Yeah.
He's shoving wad after wad of gum in his mouth.
Yeah, the gum was hilarious. Okay, so favorite character.
Hey, easy. Yeah, it was Jim.
It's a
Ace
comedy
Ventura.
movie. And there's one person in this movie who is funny.
Yeah.
And it's Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
And that's another reason why, maybe not my favorite. It's like literally one person
That was the
is
only
funny.
thing, the only part that was funny. I
Yeah.
mean, there was other funny scenes, but he was the standout on
He
hands
absolutely
down.
was. And is it woke?
All in all, I think this movie could be released today with one exception.
Yeah.
So that's the scene where they all find out that they kissed Lois Einhorn, who turned out to be Ray Finkel, and they all start spitting and throwing up, and that could be seen as homophobic, transphobic.
Yeah, transphobic. That's probably the big one.
Yeah.
A lot of transgender activist groups have spoken out about this movie. The movie got a shout out from Brooklyn Nine-Nine from Andy Samberg's character. He says, Ace Ventura, Pet Detective, classic film, one of my childhood favorites, and it only gets overtly transphobic at the very end, so win.
Great quote.
Yeah, great quote. And so that is a big part that nowadays, and especially with everything we know about transgender rights and everything, it's been in the news quite a bit in recent years. That's something that there would certainly be a backlash.
Yeah, but
it
wouldn't stop them from releasing it.
Probably not. Yeah, you're probably
So.
right. They would release it anyway. Other than that, I mean, we talked about My Brother Larry. That's another scene where maybe people would have a problem with that. Like this crazy mental hospital guy, like, hey, who are you trying to be there? You know, I'm sure people would say something about that. But for the most part, it was pretty woke.
Yeah, I guess.
For a 90s comedy.
Yeah, so, early 90s at that, too.
Not too bad.
Okay, so what's coming up next week?
Well, next week, of course, it's my pick. I have to make you watch a movie this time around. And I'm going with one of my 80s favorites, St. Elmo's Fire.
St. Elmo's Fire, one that I know nothing about.
Really?
So my first impression is that it's the Sesame Street character Elmo going around lighting things on fire. But no, I don't think, I really don't think that's what it's about. I know you've mentioned it to me. It's about post-college, basically.
Yeah, that would be a great movie.
Yeah.
I just want to say that. Yes, so you have an idea. It's basically, post-college. These people have just graduated and they're moving on with their lives, trying to figure their lives out. That's more or less the overarching theme of the story. Is there anything else you know about the movie?
No. So I know a couple of actors. I know Emilio Estevez, Demi Moore, Rob Lowe, Andy McDowell, Brat Pack movie, yeah.
And of course, you love the theme song.
No, St. Elmo's Fire.
So you love the theme song.
That's a rockin' song.
Get ready to hear that.
I'm looking forward to it.
Also, this movie falls into a category of movies, for me, that... I don't know. It's pretty specific.
Yeah.
So,
and you've said yourself that you don't necessarily enjoy it. Well, you enjoy it, but
thing.
there's.
Yeah. So it falls into a sort of a niche category of movies for me, which we'll kind of get into in just a little bit. And that's next week.
All right. Well, we look forward to it. Let's watch this with Eryk and Brandon. And thanks to everybody. Thanks to our producers, Joe, Lucas, and Shelby. And we're going to do it again next week.
St. Elmo's Fire.
See you then.